Behind the Shades.
I have a brother and a sister, both younger. My brother is the middle child, and there's always this joke that the middle child falls between the cracks, right? Like the firstborn
Hmm.
gets everything, which is me, because they are the ones who have like 1,000 godparents, right? Everybody
Right.
wants to be a godparent for the first one.
So true.
And the last one is always the baby. And the middle one, although in my experience, they seem to get the most attention because whatever went wrong with the first child, you're not going to repeat with the second,
Right.
right? And some parents, when they tell me, they're like, Terrain, what I do is always try to make sure I have an even number of children to avoid the middle child, right? So they would have 2, 4, 6, 8,
Hmm.
and they would try to figure out, but they would either do them within a year together, so there isn't that gap, or what they'll do is they'll do the first, figure it out, and then the second, third, and fourth, they'll be closer together so they can grow up together.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you have a number of children. Are they, is there a big age between them? And if so, or if not, how did you navigate dating your children when you're trying to allocate not only your time for yourself, your husband, but all these other children as well?
Right. So my children are each 3 years apart. That was not on purpose. I very much wanted them to be boom, 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 so they could really grow up and be super connected together. Um, However, biologically, it just wasn't working. And so they did come out 3 years apart. I really believe that, that first one, like you said, gets so much attention, especially when we had been trying for years and then everybody's so excited for us. We finally had a baby. Everybody's right there. And that second one doesn't get the same attention. I do everything in my power to make sure she feels just as important as her older sister and her younger brother. And I still see it though. I still see the differences. I see the favoritism towards my oldest. I also see that I'm harder on my oldest, even though I try my best not to be. Um, but how I allegate that is I would do it when either grandma can watch the kids or dad could watch the kids. Currently, we're in a situation where I'm the only adult in the house. Now, we had a different kind of lifestyle. We traveled in our RV for maybe 4 years. So we have a very small, close-knit home. So even though they have age difference, they're together all the time. And I have seen that that has helped with their closeness for sure. And so we live in a giant campground that has multiple neighborhoods. It's actually a really cool setting. And it's a place I'm very comfortable with my kids being. So I can take one and just like go to the campground store, get a snack, and we can go for a walk through the woods together while the other two are at the neighbor's house or something.
That's good that you do that because you're paying attention and you're aware. Do you
Mhm.
have parents that come up to you and they may feel that that isn't the case, but then when you come into the picture and you're helping them along, you're like, that actually is the case. I can see who's your favorite, which one you pay the least amount of attention to, and the one, and I think this is a fortunate situation where there's that child that is yearning for that connection, that is basically almost screaming out for it, but they
Yeah,
don't necessarily get it. Have you seen that as well?
I have. And it's hard to bring it to their attention in a gentle way, but it is definitely possible because they're not aware of it. And it's all about being self-aware. And once they are, they can be like, oh, I didn't even see I was doing that. I didn't see how I was showing favoritism here. And so then they are thankfully grateful and can make the necessary changes to make sure everybody feels comfortable. And I've had a lot of parents be like, well, yeah, that's great and all, but I can't afford to take my kids on dates. I'm like, you don't have to pay a penny for it. A hike doesn't cost anything. A picnic doesn't cost you any more money than you already spent on the groceries in your house. They just want to be with you. They just want to know they matter to you. And that's the most important thing.
I think sometimes we underestimate the value of time and how it's worth more than any form of currency that man, women have ever created, right?
Absolutely. And the time, not even the quantity, but the quality of that time spent together.
Yes, yes. Like you mentioned, like the hike.
Mhm.
And the reason why I always like to go back to, let's say, like a work analogy or a dating analogy is we get into this habit sometimes that if we're not spending X amount of dollars, that we can't have a good time.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
And that's some people's love language. And I've had to, like, their grandma, bless her, she has the biggest heart and gives them so much. But her love language is gifts. And I'm a minimalist. So that's something I had to get over myself, to be like, that's how she shows her grandkids love. And that's okay. And they know she loves them. Whereas for me, it's let me take you on a walk. Let's talk. Let's have a deep conversation. Everyone has different love languages, and that's how she shows up for them.
And I think that's where people would probably need to understand what their children's are, because it's fine to raise them
Yes.
to say that, well, your love language is going to be quality time because that's mine.
Right.
That might not be so, right? They may all they may want is for their mom and their dad to say, you did a good job. I love you today.
Yes.
That is sufficient. I know my love language is words of affirmation. And growing up, I got none of that because I wasn't raised with my mom and my dad. I was raised by my grandmother. So I guess for me, because I didn't get it growing up, it developed into something I really wanted, therefore it became my love language.
Definitely.
Gifts meant very little to me. But I can appreciate if, let's say, for example, you, Kat, that was your love language, and I'm trying to show you that I care about you.
Right.
You need to identify what is going to make, instead of us telling them what's going to make them happy, we should ask them what's going to make them happy. Have you had those types of conversations with the parents you work with?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, because it's 100% true. It is definitely about acknowledging what makes them happy. Like my oldest, her love language is gift giving, not necessarily gift receiving. She doesn't care if she gets them. Of course, she appreciates them, but for her, she shows people love by making them something and giving it to them. Or if she sees something while we're out and about and she can afford it, she'll buy it for the person. And that's great. My middle, her love language is 100% physical touch. She loves to be cuddled. And so it is very important to pay attention to what each individual wants. And I love that you said ask them, because they will tell you.